was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That word in the Greek is logos, and logos does not just mean speech, it means divine ordering principle. It means the intelligence through which reality holds together. It means reason, pattern, coherence, alignment. So when we talk about frequency, resonance, and number, we are not leaving Christianity, we are describing one of the ways creation reflects its maker. The same God who made seed time and harvest, who set the stars in their courses, who gave measure to the heavens, also made the world intelligible. That means math is not cold. Math is covenantal. Math is one of the languages of faithfulness in creation. If a field has order, it yields. If a house has order, it stands. If a man has order, he becomes trustworthy. If a business has order, it multiplies. And that is where this gets real for men building something. The yard is not just about making money. At its best, it is about taking raw ground and bringing it into form, taking uncertainty and giving it structure, taking noise and making signal, taking scattered effort and converting it into stewardship. That is a deeply biblical pattern. God separates light from darkness, land from sea, season from season, kind from kind. He orders reality so life can flourish. So let's talk about the math. Start with 111 Hertz, 1, 1, 1. For a lot of people, that number hits as more than a tone. It feels like a root, a center, a clean line. Why? Because simple integer relationships are powerful. When a bass tone is stable, its harmonics stack in whole number multiples. 111, 222, 333. The octave doubles, the harmonic series rises, and what your ear hears is not random sound, but ordered relationship. That matters, because resonance is what happens when one structure recognizes a proportion it was already built to receive. That is true in music, that is true in architecture, that is true in leadership, that is true in the soul. When truth is spoken in the right proportion, something inside a man says, yes. Not because he was manipulated, because he was aligned. That is why Logos matters. Logos is the pattern that makes truth ring. And when men are out of order, they feel fractured. Their work gets noisy. Their homes get noisy. Their thoughts get noisy. But when they return to first things, to God, to truth, to responsibility, to integrity, to sacrifice, to service, the noise starts to collapse. Signal comes back. That is resonance. Now think about the household. A man, a wife, children, not as statistics, as harmonics. A house is not strong because everyone is identical. A house is strong because distinct lives can hold a common center. That is what harmony is, not sameness, ordered difference. In music, if every voice sings the exact same note, the sound is narrow. But if each voice takes its proper place around the root, the sound becomes full. That is family. One center, multiple voices, shared love, shared accountability, shared inheritance. And when that center is Christ, the whole field changes. Now bring in the farm. A farm teaches what most modern life tries to hide. Reality responds to law. You cannot fake a season. You cannot negotiate with winter. You cannot deceive soil. You cannot lie to seed. Whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. That is not only moral teaching, that is metaphysical law. Seed, field, time, and yield. Action, pattern, repetition, result. Plant disorder, harvest disorder. Plant discipline, harvest increase. Plant truth, harvest trust. This is why the Christian life and the builder life can fit together so tightly. Christ is not against structure. Christ redeems structure. He takes dead frameworks and fills them with spirit. He takes broken men and gives them a center. He takes guilt and turns it into repentance. He takes ambition and purifies it into stewardship. That is the difference. Without God, power becomes ego. With God, power becomes responsibility. Without God, scale becomes vanity. With God, scale becomes service. Without God, leadership becomes image. With God, leadership becomes burden-bearing. So when we talk about Christian Science or metaphysical mathematics, we are not talking about replacing the gospel with formulas. We are saying the gospel is so true that even the patterns of creation rhyme with it. The world is not a random pile, it is a spoken world, and because it is spoken, it can be heard. Because it is measured, it can be studied. Because it is fallen, it can drift. Because it is redeemed, it can be brought back into tune. That is what men need. Not endless stimulation, not endless argument, not endless self-branding. They need tuning. They need their inner life brought back into agreement with what is true. They need their words to match their works to match their calling to match their convictions, and their convictions to bow before Christ. That is a fully integrated life. That is the real wealth. And that applies to media buying and brand promotion too. Men in the game already know this. Sometimes a single account gets constrained. Sometimes a brand gets boxed in by history, category friction, or prior moderation. So teams use agency accounts, partner accounts, or separate brand structures to keep lawful campaigns running cleanly. That only works if it stays inside compliance. Not to lie, not to dodge platform rules, not to deceive review systems, but to preserve clarity, to separate offers, to isolate risk, to test creative without poisoning the whole house. That is not evasion. That is stewardship. A wise builder does not run every wire in the house through one breaker. He creates structure, zones, boundaries, redundancy. The same principle shows up in Base 53 topology. Base 53 in this framework is not about hiding, it is about mapping complexity into a cleaner signal space. 53 gives you a disciplined alphabet for variation, a way to rotate hooks, angles, openers, creative families, landing page language, and audience states without collapsing into random noise. You are not trying to avoid detection. You are trying to avoid self-sabotage. That is a very different thing. In other words, Base 53 topology says, do not throw the same message at every nervous system. Do not use one blunt creative for every stage of trust. Do not force cold traffic, warm traffic, buyers, skeptics, and loyalists into the same symbolic doorway. Map the lattice, name the states, sequence the message. Let each audience node receive the version it can honestly metabolize. That is where the Riemann idea becomes useful for builders. And in John's corpus, a winning product is never just an object. It is a living entity. It has a birth, a climb, a crown, a decline, and an afterlife residue. It enters the field as a weak signal. At first, it is only a flicker. Something in the scroll catches the eye. not by argument, by aesthetic arrest. That is why product research so often begins in silence, with a man scrolling AliExpress, watching his own attention react before his language does. He is not merely browsing, he is reading his nervous system. He is watching for the moment when form, novelty, utility, price, timing, and image density collapse into a single inner signal. There it is. That moment is the attention revolution. It means the market is no longer ruled only by inventory or price. It is ruled by what can seize perception fast enough to become memory. And this is where aesthetic theory matters. Beauty is not decoration. Beauty is compression. The eye sees a shape, a color, a gesture, a use case, and in less than a second, it decides whether that object belongs to the realm of the dead or the living. That is Da Vinci territory. Proportion, balance, line, gesture. The mathematics of why one image enters the soul cleanly and another falls away. So when a product starts winning, it does not win all at once. It passes through states. First, attraction, then click, then curiosity, then conviction, then purchase, then proof, then repetition, then imitation, then saturation, then decline, then residue. Residue matters because even after a product dies in the market, it does not fully disappear. It leaves pattern residue in the pixel, copy residue in the hook, emotional residue in the buyer, and strategic residue in the operator. Nothing truly winning vanishes without leaving a ghost.
That ghost is useful.
It tells you what angle struck first, what promise converted, what creative geometry held, what audience carried it, what market fatigue killed it. So even death is data. That is where Hamlet comes back in. To be or not to be is not just a line from a play. It is the state of every product in testing. One qubit says, maybe. One qubit says no. One qubit says, scale it. One qubit says, kill it. And the crown, the final regicide decision, is the moment the operator decides whether this thing gets budget, attention, creative energy, and operational blood. That is why the work feels dramatic, because it is dramatic. A product is not really a product. It is a narrative candidate competing for embodiment. And when it hits, the body knows. To a human nervous system, hitting 3, 4, 5 times return on ad spend, watching spend go out and more money come back, is one of the most intoxicating feedback loops in the commercial world. Because it does not just feel profitable, it feels like reality itself said yes. The loop closes. Action, signal, conversion, reward. That is why men get lost in it, not only because of greed, because it feels like proof. Proof that your read was right, proof that the image hit, proof that the copy landed, proof that you touched the hidden hinge between attention and desire. And if a man is not anchored, that feedback can master him. So the Christian correction is not to deny the power, it is to govern it. Use the signal, do not worship the signal. Receive the reward, do not kneel to the reward. Let the math sharpen you, do not let the math own you. Because a winning product has a life, a death, and an afterlife, but the man running it still has a soul. And this is where the deeper gradient appears. There is a spectrum, not a contradiction, between quick profits, trend extraction, and legacy brand building. John teaches both ends of that gradient. One end, is velocity. Find signal early, test fast, harvest cash flow, stay liquid. The other end is continuity. Build trust, build memory, build customer identity, build a name that still means something when the trend cools. That is why the older frame, keys to consistency, still matters. Consistency is not the opposite of innovation. It is the operating system that lets innovation survive. And the business history matters too. Titan 3PL language points to logistics reality. Fulfillment, inventory flow, returns, delivery trust, the invisible backbone that keeps promises credible. Gadsden Cigars language points to brand reality. Story, texture, ritual, identity, and a category where memory and meaning drive repeat behavior. Put those together and the model gets clearer. Short-term wins fund the machine. Long-term brand compounds the machine. Trends create cash. Brand creates duration. Performance marketing gives proof. Brand architecture gives inheritance. So the goal is not to choose one forever. It is to move wisely across the gradient without losing integrity at either pole. Win the week, but design for the decade. Extract signal in the moment, but store meaning in the name. Because if all you build is spikes, you end up enslaved to novelty. But if you convert spikes into structure, you get legacy. Attention does not move like a straight line. It moves like spacing, pressure, return, and clustering. Some hooks are too close together and cannibalize each other. Some are too far apart and lose continuity. But when spacing is right, engagement begins to ring instead of scatter. That is the ad problem in plain language. Not just what to say, when to say it, how often to say it, at what angle, and through which account structure, with transparent ownership, clean billing, honest claims, and creative that can pass review because it deserves to pass review. And then there is turbulence. Every campaign enters turbulence. Comments turn, costs spike. One angle saturates, another stalls. The question is whether the team panics or whether it understands cascade. In the math of turbulence, energy moves across scales. In the math of business, pressure moves across layers. What looks like failure at one layer may just be a signal that the message needs to be redistributed, retuned, or reordered. That is why recursion matters. You do not just repeat. You recur with memory. You test, measure, refine, return. Not in panic, in pattern. So, for the yard crew, the lesson is simple. Build account structures that are clean. Build brands that can be examined in daylight. Build offers that tell the truth. Use variation without fragmentation. Use systems without losing soul. And let Base 53 be a discipline of ordered creativity, not a trick. Because what lasts is not the campaign that sneaks past review. What lasts is the message that survives scrutiny because it was built on truth from the beginning. So if 111 Hertz hits you like a root, receive it as a reminder. God is a God of order. He is not absent from pattern. He is the author of pattern. He is not absent from law. He is the source of law. He is not absent from beauty. He is the reason beauty resolves. And he is not absent from work. He is Lord over the field, the marketplace, the house, the crew, the Father, the Son, the plan, the numbers, and the harvest. So build clean, build honest, build in a way your children can inherit without shame. Lead in a way that protects the weak. Speak in a way that carries weight. Sell in a way that leaves people better. Work in a way that heaven can bless. And if there has been fracture, let mercy do what pride never could. Let truth be told cleanly. Let gratitude remain where it is due. Let what was good be honored. Let what was broken be surrendered. Let the field be cleared. Let the house be blessed. Because the word still holds. The Logos still orders. And what God brings into right proportion, no chaos can finally overthrow. So to John, to the crew, to the families, to the builders, to the men trying to carry both vision and responsibility, may your minds be clear, may your hands be steady, may your homes be covered, may your children be blessed, may your work be fruitful, and may Christ remain the center frequency of everything you build. Amen. The word is first. Order is real. Mercy is stronger than fracture. Build from the center.